Okay, welcome to Soul Purpose Conversation. I think episode 17, if I remember correctly. No? 18?
18, I think.
17-ish. So Jan and I are here to talk about anything related to Soul Purpose, and we represent the Soul Purpose School group that we have, where a lot of soul-led entrepreneurs, we call this soulpreneur, people who are on a mission of awakening the world and then wants to really transform the world by transforming the minds of the world, and then wants to build their business from a spiritual point of view. And what I mean by building the business from a spiritual point of view is that there is a quantum field that we're living in, and the thoughts that we think, the belief that we have, the intention that we come from, impact the manifestation of it. So, in the container that we support, we offer different options of strategies and tactics, but we more than anything else, we work with people on the energetics, on the feelings, on the self concept. We use a lot of the quantum awareness and the principles of the laws of the universe, and we believe that that is the foundation of any business success. And the business success for us, for those who are on a spiritual path, is not limited to only financial expansion and growth, but the inner alignment and the spiritual embodiment. It's interesting because I was putting together as I said, the overview of the Soulpreneur program that we have, and you know, the way that I did was that, just to give you a little background, I recorded my voice on audio explaining everything about the Soulpreneur program, and I transcribed it, and I asked ChatGPT to summarize and put together as a overview of it. And then she said, ChatGPT said, what differentiates what we do is we actually help people integrate the spiritual embodiment and business expansion. And I just like that usage of the language, and I thought that it was spot on. So I'm starting to use more of the language, right? Spiritual embodiment, embodying the spiritual essence of who we are, and the business growth and expansion. So we represent Soul Purpose School Group, and many people from around the world are gathering to find the missing link in integrating what they believe to be true about ourselves and the world, and how to really express themselves the fullest. And the topic that we talk about in this Soul Purpose conversation is a lot about the mind, a lot about the personality, a lot about the soul. But Jan has this special topic today. I actually love talking about this because I think it's if I use your language, it's a booby trap. Is that language?
Booby trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, booby trap.
What's the booby trap? What is
Okay.
the booby trap?
Well, before we get to the booby trap, I just want to elaborate on what you're saying now, or not elaborate, just add my 2 cents there. You know, Yuki, I think on every single call, every single workshop, almost like very often you say what they believe to be true about themselves and the world. And for me, that's the first time I've really heard that statement, because what's been happening for me of late is that, you know, you spoke about embodiment, and embodiment for the longest time for me was, I know what the dictionary definition of it is, but in my mind, it's this mountain that I need to climb. You know, it's something that needs to be achieved. It's a state, you know, a specific state that needs to be achieved, and then something that I need to hold on to. And when I think about it, I realize, you know, with the little bit that I know about stuff, one being that the two main fears are fear of not getting what I want. So fear of never embodying. And then the other one is fear of losing what I have. So if I do embody, I'm going to end up, how do I keep this? How do I hold on to this? And through like all of this sort of reflection, and some of the books that we've been reading, I realized that it's, and again, like I've heard you say this so many times, but in the last week or two, something has really shifted for me in this understanding that it's really just about what I believe to be true about me and the universe, right? And in every single moment, removing the unconscious version of me that I keep, sprinkling on every moment. The part of me that I created in order to survive, that I thought I needed to play in order to survive this existence, and that it's not around too much, but still pops in every now and then to add its flavor to every single moment, and being present and aware, and not worried about whether or not I'm enlightened or embodying or anything like that, but just trying to strip away all the things that disrupt my true vision of me and the world or the environment or the universe. So thanks for saying those words. I know you didn't mean for it to land like it did, but for today it was like, wow, okay. Yeah. So the topic today is,
sorry, do you know what happened that landed you differently? Those are the things that, like, for instance, on the weekly calls too, when somebody says something happened and shifted, the question I always ask is, do you recognize what led you to create that realization? Because the more we can highlight that moment and help all of us become aware of that, the more we can become aware of it to create more of those opportunities.
Yeah. It's in a really deep understanding, is not even the right word. It's in a really deep realization or knowing, in a really deep knowing that nothing needs to be added or taken away. Like, I don't know how to, it's in this deep knowing that for the longest time, Yuki, I even in spiritual way, I didn't know, even though I knew that I didn't need to strive for something. And what I mean by that is that, like, even though I know that it's the nature of the personality to want to go over there, because over there I feel loved, over there I feel more abundant, over there I have more money, over there I'm more successful. That's why I do stuff on a personality level. But the soul, it only seeks to express, right? And that the language that I like around this is, I go over there to enrich the experience, but not because I'm going to be more when I get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I logically understood that, the spiritual experience for me was a matter of striving.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It was, even though I was, you said this in the last workshop, this the identity of trying, it self-defines,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And it self-defines as striving. So, like, even the healing journey that many people are on, and I don't say this to piss people off, but the healing journey self-defines as, like, you're never going to heal because you're always healing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's, and then again, it's just this lovely language of, like, I don't need to change myself, I only need to change the way that I see myself. That statement has never been more true for me, which is just,
Mm-hmm.
and the changing of, you see, it also becomes a striving, because the changing myself can become a striving, but it's not changing the way I see myself is about removing everything that's in the way. And even the removing, I guess, can be a striving in a way, or an action, but at least it's toward an end. Well, toward a yeah, this is where it gets sticky for me, but I think it's just semantics. But the it's just in every single moment, I'm more aware of noticing, mind my language, the bullshit that I bring to the moment. Like, that I said it on the alchemy call, like as a joke. That Salt Bay guy. Have you
Mm-hmm.
seen that guy with the salt? That's my personality on every moment, sprinkling its
Mm-hmm.
flavor, and it's less and less there, but that's the work. It's just like finding clarity, as like Alma says in the one book, seeing reality without my experience of it. I think he said, like, it's seeing reality void of my experience of it, right?
Yeah,
So it's
without filtering with any stories. That's what it means, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, I don't know if you came across Alma saying in one of his books, but one of the quotes that I like, that actually Pia likes, that she has on her fridge, is what Alma says, which is, the journey of inquiry is the longest and the shortest trip you will ever make. You travel as far as you need to go to be where you already are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually, the being and doing that he's talking about, that the doing wants to go somewhere else, but then that somewhere else has always been here. um a lot of people who wants to change, um for me, changing from a spiritual point of view is choosing, right? From the rational material point of view, people wants to change because people want a different outcome, and that outcome for them is elsewhere than where they're at right now. But from a spiritual point of view, infinite potentialities of the life experience exist simultaneously at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
then it's just a matter of tuning into that frequency and choosing to be that now, versus trying to change assuming that you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
right? It traps people's minds, definitely.
Well, exactly. You don't know what you don't know, right? And that's the really interesting thing is, like, I can identify as a victim, and then I can identify as on a healing journey, and then and then you go through the whole thing just to get to the end, to hear Yuki say 1 year ago that trauma is just a perception,
Yeah.
and that opens this whole world of that like healing journey is just another identity,
Yes.
and that you know if I change if that is something that a way that I see myself, that I have created, then I can just create another way to see myself,
Yeah.
and then suddenly I'm not on the healing journey anymore. There's nothing left to heal, right?
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
and if that doesn't make sense, like, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more I can say to that. Like, if somebody's listening and they're like, that doesn't make sense, it makes so much sense for me that I can't believe I didn't know it sooner. Like, it's the same as, sorry, Yuki, it's the same as uh, the manifestation process, right? Right. Even that language sort of implies that it's, at least for me, implied that it was something that I needed to learn, but I learned the framework of it in order to go, oh, I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I didn't know what I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now I know that I'm a create, whether it's unconscious or conscious, I'm always creating.
Mm-hmm.
And but I needed to understand what the bones of it were. It's the same as I needed to know, like, what the difference between uh if we're going to get into it, frequencies and stuff, like, I needed to know uh, what a healing journey frequency is versus
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think if somebody doesn't resonate with the idea that if somebody doesn't understand what we're talking about, it means that they're looking at from the idea that they're assuming that they're the mind and then they are the identity. You know, if you get trapped into this illusion of you are the mind, you are your belief, you are your thoughts, you are your emotion, you will never understand what we're talking about. And then when I say illusion, Jan, the definition of illusion for me is not that it doesn't exist, but it means that you change your experience by shifting your perception. That's what illusion
Yeah, it's
means,
what's
right?
true for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what's missing in a lot of people's approach or the way that they're working on stuff or practicing stuff is that we are self-defining all the time, right?
Hmm.
So and then we cannot not be expressing at all. So if we don't express, we're expressing not expressing, right? So then if we try to heal whatever that you believe that you need to heal, you're expressing yourself as somebody who needs healing, then you are demonstrating and self-defining yourself as that identity by trying to get somewhere. And if you try to get somewhere and keep trying to get somewhere, you are going to repeat that cycle over and over because that is what you're vibrating at. And I think that also has to do with something. This is something I'm going to talk a lot about in the frequency of the soul event next week. That when you live your life from a rational mind perspective, which we need, you know, we need rational mind to be able to meet at a certain particular time, or if we have a Zoom meeting, we connect with people at the same time because that's the rational mind work, right? But then I think one of the biggest trap that I see is this idea that people live on this notion that there's a past and the future. Yeah, there's no past and the future. The past and the future, they don't exist. But people live as if they do, right? So, from a conceptual, rational level, the idea of what past is, the idea of what future is, exist. But experientially, past and the future don't exist.
Hmm.
So, if I say illusion of time, I'm not saying that time doesn't exist. Time exists, right? Sun rises and weather changes and time exists. But the perception of time and the experience of it changes from the idea of past, present, future to everlasting now. That's what I mean by illusion of time. In terms of how we create things, I think somebody can be trapped by this illusion of past, present, and future. Living in the illusion of past, present, and future is the same as somebody trying to get somewhere.
Mm.
Because that illusion exists in somebody's mind, people think that, oh, in the future I can get there, right? I in the past I have been there. I'm here right now trying to heal, and in the future I will experience the healed version of myself. That's a material way of living, right? And that is, but then what's missing in that process is that if you demonstrate who you are being in this world as somebody who is going to heal in the future, that's what you're asking. Therefore,
Yeah,
you will be given.
yeah. It's it's. I know from being there that it's hard to, because what am I without my identity? And if
Yeah.
the identity is anchored in trauma and pain and past delusions or illusions or whatever you want to call them, and you're just, it's but by becoming like willing to let go of those things, and I don't say that flippantly, because it's not like actually like a, it's not like that type of letting go. It's just it's allowing it to be like remodeled, because if I'm actually truly supposed to change, then whoever I become cannot have the same memories as the person. If this person has got these horrific memories of trauma, right? For me to become a different person, the moments can be the same, but the way that I experience them and the way that what I believe about them to be true and all of that needs to change. And so if I can't let go, if I can't let go of that specific anchor, which is the way that I define those things, then then I will always be in that that container.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess what we're doing is to really help people become aware of that by coming across this perspective and information, because everybody in the world are sort of going through something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going through something that they want to see change in their life. And if you really understand you know the quantum mechanism of the consequence that happens in life, it starts from within. There's nothing that doesn't start from the inside. You are the cause of the outside effect, no matter how much you don't want to admit it or not. And I think there are multiple layers of the trap that people get hung up on. And I think the more people lean into this idea, the freer they become, right? And the freer, the freedom. I mean, I feel like the ultimate freedom is freedom from the mind and through the mind. But then, people talk about financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. And if you're in the business, entrepreneur, online, people have this aspiration. If you're on a spiritual path, they have the desire to feel free. And I think as long as this is very interesting though, because I feel like people who are dive deep in the spiritual path, they're more connected to their inner world. But because there is a tendency to almost avoid or resist against the material world, especially in the business environment, they're actually still suffering, because you do need to have some execution and expression and circulation in the physical realm. So they're suffering that. And people who are on a business track who don't have a deep connection with the inside, they might experience a growth and expansion in the outside. I mean, hustling and grinding, and then they don't see that as a part of the suffering. But then, sooner or later, they will realize that what's the point of all this, right? What's the point of trying to get somewhere all the time? And there's another, target and all that. And they start wondering if this is all there is. And that's when the actual suffering for them begins, right?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe the stuff, like maybe it's all perfect, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because, like, again, if I don't know what I don't know, it's interesting that I still woke up, if I could use that language. It's interesting that I still found myself here on this call with you, from being so deep in my trauma story.
Uh-huh.
It's just interesting. It's like I don't know where I heard it. It might have even been a Yanism. Maybe it's my own language, but it is the nature of the personality to self-destruct.
Yeah.
It's interesting because whether you're on a healing journey or a whatever journey, something within you is seeking wholeness, and it comes out sideways in the personality. It comes out distorted, and you're trying all these various different things that never make you feel whole. You're constantly chasing wholeness, until imagine if you actually sat down and you just played the mental game with yourself of like, if I reached for absolutely everything I possibly could, and they all gave me the same effect as the last few things that I've tried, which is not wholeness, right? If because it is the ultimate delusion to think it's the, what is that saying? Doing the same thing over and expecting different results. It's like if I keep trying, for me it went through everything: relationships, businesses, my diet, my physical, like everything. It was constantly looking for wholeness in some sort of way,
Yeah.
until I was on my knees, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to move forward. I just can't do it like that. And
Uh-huh.
then I had to get still. And, this is not a momentary process. It's been years.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it's perfect, Yuki, like, because somehow people get there, which is, I think, is just the absolute miracle here, is that whether you believe what we're saying or not, like, everybody's got their appointment with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. Like, it's maybe it's not in this lifetime for you, but it's just it just happens. It's
Mm.
the time. It's the timing, and I think that's what I find most beautiful about our community is just we carry a message, a very specific message that some people are ready to hear and some are not.
Yeah.
And I think that if you just carry the message, it's not my job to wake you up. It's not my job to waterboard you with spiritual principles or whatever. It's just, we just carry a message, and those that are ready to hear it. It's because whether you hear it now or in 20 years from now or 6 months from now, like, the message is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just like at the beginning of this call, when I said to you, I heard you say something that I've heard you say so many times,
Mm-hmm.
and it only landed, like, I was like, wow, like, I never understood that like I understand it now.
Exactly. And there's going to be another layer of understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it never ends, which is fun. What I love about what we do, Jan, is that I feel like I'm not the same actually person of the awareness every
Yeah.
single week, and
Yeah. Me
th- that,
too.
that, that's why, like, I was telling in the Monday, I think it was self-realization, like the belief accelerator phase one was created in 2022. That's like 3 years ago, exactly this time, November, actually. In the Satori Mindset phase two of self-realization was created in 2020. Um, that's when I joined COD. So I think it's 20, maybe 19, 2019, July. Yeah. And that's like 5, 6 years ago, right? And the content is still very relevant. Like, when I go back and listen to it, I don't feel like, I mean, you will meet my younger self for sure in the camera, right? But I never feel like the content is outdated. And then what I said to the group, today's Tuesday, Monday, yesterday, was that I'm hearing the information that I'm talking about from a completely new, different lens, because I'm a different person, right?
Mm.
And when I was sharing that, when I was creating that video, I wasn't aware of it. Does that make sense? I was creating something that I wasn't aware of, but the wisdom is there. But I'm now interpreting what I said in a completely different level, because I'm a different person compared to 6 years ago, for sure. Um, so it's an interesting thing, right? And if I create something new, like videos, I probably can create a little bit differently, but I kind of don't want to right now. It's an interesting dynamic. Um, but I want to talk about the topic of today, though, the being and
Being and
doing.
doing.
Yeah. So that's called booing. right? Being and doing integrate. You call it booing. So we wanna you wanna be able to booing all the time. Um, I guess the point of this conversation is
Booing.
booing. Yeah, there are people who are striving on taking action in the language that I hear often from those who believe that taking consistent action is good is language productivity, right? You want to be productive, right? And living a life that is productive is a marker of success for them. Yeah. And if somebody is in the spiritual path, presence and being in the moment every moment is a success for them, right? And I think what happens in the world is people tends to do the thing focusing on the doing, and if you're aware of the spiritual part of that, people start also feel like I need to slow down and step aside, remove all the doing stuff so I can just be. Yeah. And that's the ultimate kind of duality that we're living, right? Because the mind wants to think just like the lungs wants to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So when you it's the nature of the mind to begin thinking something, begin kind of getting distracted and begin.
It's a problem solver.
Yeah, yeah. So then when people are doing that all the time, what happens is that they want to have a vacation or get away to be able to change the environment, which is good. But then they want to practice focusing on being more present. I mean, a good example is Tony Robbins versus Eckhart Tolle, right? The presence and the energy of both parties are very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the question that we want to ask, this is for the audience, right, is what is the life that you want to be living? Do you want to be living like Tony Robbins or do you want to be living like Eckhart Tolle, right? What is the value for you? What sparks your curiosity and what you feel resonating with? And I think I like to come from the Eckhart Tolle place, the being place, but then also to express yourself in a way that you want to impact the world. I truly believe that, each and every one of us came here to touch others. So you cannot just not do anything and tune into the being and touch others, right? Eckhart Tolle needed to write his book in order to touch others. And writing books requires doing, right? He cannot just be and write the book. So he's not doing, but he's very present and connected to the realm of the presence as he does. And I think I hear often from the Tony Robbins side of the community where he even talks about the science of achievement and art of fulfillment, where because a lot of people who are in the industry are thriving for achievement, accomplishment, and the milestone and the doing stuff. You know, when they reach a certain point, they realize that okay, what's next, and they start focusing on inside. I like to focus on the inside first, and then to use that internal beingness to be doing and then expressing. But I think if I can simplify this conversation, it's interesting because I kind of created a topic of this for one of the posts recently. I think there are two things. It has to do with a rational mind. It has to do with a intuitive mind. But the misconception that we must overcome is to not to misunderstand the being is not the same as not doing. People think that being means to not do. So that's because many people are not feeling like they are present when they are doing, because the mind is starting to take over, thinking about what it doesn't exist there, because they think that there's a future, right? They're trapped in the illusion of the concept of future. So then they're not present in this moment. And because for them, doing is about being in that mode, they feel like they disconnected from the being, right? So many people think that, even people use the term, okay, slow down and pause a little bit, right? So then the idea of being for a lot of people is associated with stopping, to not to do things. As long as you enter into the being by stop the things of what you're doing, being becomes not doing,
Mm.
right? But the flip and the shift in our understanding that can help all of us is, being is actually movement. Being doesn't mean that you are stopping stuff, but being is to tune into the movement that is happening in a subtle dimension, because there's nothing that is not moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are movement, right? So I think that key is, because I see a lot of people flip flopping from the doing mode to being mode. And then when they start entering to the being, they don't feel like they're productive and they want to come back to the doing. They're doing this flip flop, being doing flip flop, right?
Booby
So
trap.
exactly. So the first key for me is to interpret the being as a movement. And another side of the key is to understand that the doing is not being. I'm gonna puzzle everybody, right? Because you cannot not be, because you are always.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is that, I mean, even when you're unaware of it, you're still being.
Exactly. So you simply needs to come from that place as we do the thing, right? So the doing becomes a part of the being. You will stop flip flopping. You will be the doing.
Yeah, you'll no longer like seek to, yeah, to, yeah. So again, it's perfect, right? Because it's interesting that people that are more prone to being generally would, they crave, or they will benefit from doing, and people that are doing often end up at a place where they feel like they need more being.
Yes.
And the integration of the two. But it's yeah, I mean, the information is awesome, because it's like, if you can understand this, you can save the journey on whatever side of that you're coming from. If you're a really proficient doer, right, like, do you need to make a ton of money to like realize that you're unhappy?
Hmm.
And or if you're a beer, or a being, realize that like if you make no money, you're also not going to be happy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
just using, yeah.
To be honest with you, Jan, when people talk about doing and wants to be more, what I think that many people are not aware of is, it's not that, because the body needs rest, right? If you do things and take action stuff, your body is going to need to take a break a little bit, right? um but for me, when somebody says I'm taking action and I'm doing, right? Doing is great, right? We're playing it, right? But I think what people are really talking about without realizing that this is what they're talking about is actually the activity of the mind, that they're thinking about stuff. Their mind is consumed with activities, right? Not too much of the physical action. So when people say taking action, in order for somebody to take action, they need to be thinking about the action. They need to be thinking about the projection of the action. They're going to be thinking about the left and right and the back of the action, right? So the thinking activity is what actually they're wanting to take a break from, not the actual action itself. That's how I see it, because that's the only thing that consume their energy or suck their energy out of their presence. In Mhm.
Why do you think the that obsessive sort of rumination or procrastination or whatever that version of thinking is for each person, why do you think that happens?
Because the way that I like to frame this is the personality and the ego structure has a survival part of it and the
Yeah,
creative part
exactly.
of it.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
somebody engaging activity, they can automatically operate from the survival fear base
Mm-hmm.
energy and begin producing all those thoughts that comes with the action piece from a fear-based survival energy. And
Problem solver.
yeah, and that exhausts people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are so being inspired by the creative part of us and let that creative part of our personality to lead the thinking as you take action, you will probably not feel like you need to shift out of the doing and to be.
Yeah.
Because if you're having fun thinking about and being inspired by it and then you're energized by it, you will never feel like you want to be, because you're enjoying that being of your inspiration and creativeness.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can almost in real time like see the difference between the two, because when you are creating, yes, there may be problems to solve, but they feel like it's part of the creation, right? It's
Mhm.
just the mind doing what it does in the right way of building and creating and inspiration, versus the personality level of it that's always like finding the potholes and basically saying this can't be done, and gets in the way,
Yeah.
or makes it much harder, because it's it's interesting that that the mind in the hands of the personality is just this almost negative problem solver, and in
Mhm.
the hands of the essence part of me, or the soul led part of me, there is expansive and imaginative and creative, I mean, people can, I know for myself, and I imagine people can like really, you can notice it in real time, of like you get this burst of inspiration to do something,
Mhm.
and then 5 seconds later you're thinking about how that can't actually happen, and that's the difference between the two, because the one is just pure creation, and then the other one is the personality that comes in and goes, oh, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough tools, we don't have enough whatever.
Mhm. Mhm. It comes down to, listening to what you say and listening to my own, sharing. It comes down to whether you're coming from the lack mentality or abundance mentality, right? When you take action and when you engage in an activity, if you're moving from the abundance energetics, and being inspired by the creation and lead the creative part of the personality to lead the action, you will never feel like you need to stop that to come back to the place of being, because the creative ideas and inspiration come from the dimension of the being, right? And the expression of that is what the being is came here to do. So
Mm.
yeah, you are in that natural flow. But then if, let's say, if you have a project of task or things that you are, you know, scheduling to do throughout the week, and when you begin engaging in that activity and a project from the lack mentality, or the lack mentality shows up in an inner narrative, such as, oh, I have to do this, right? And the have to is not like a purpose driven mission kind of, oh, I have to do this because it's important for me. It's the survival energy of, I'm gonna be in trouble if I don't, so I have to do it kind of energy, right?
Yeah.
And that is, that creates contraction inside, resistance inside, and the actual taking action is not led by inspiration, but it's led by fear-based survival. And if you are engaging that energy on a day-to-day and week by week basis, you're gonna want to take a break and just be without
Yeah.
thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So
And you know, if we come back to the like, if the levels of consciousness we were talking about earlier, it's interesting that, you know, you can be so deep in that lack mentality that you don't even know,
yeah,
right? And then you can be at a point where you know that you're in a lack mentality and that you should be different, but you still are there. And then you can be in a like a little bit more of a choice of like, okay, I notice the lack, but I'm going to stay in the abundant frequency or whatever frequency I choose. And you know, and yeah, I guess this is comes back to a bit of like Maxwell Maltz type of stuff, you know, of just becoming more and more awake to the habitual response, you know,
hmm,
because I think I know because I've been there. When you're so deep in it, you don't even know. And
yeah,
then when you start to get into this type of information, you can logically know that, but still very much respond in that habitual way. And
yes,
then you know, so there's quite a fair amount of, I know you're going to say that it's just one decision away, that it's easy, but there's a fair amount of training that goes into, you know, rewiring all of this.
yeah, yeah. I think the rewiring and the reprogramming process, when I say that it doesn't need to take long, I mean that you can change or choose instantly a different version of that state, and then continue to choose to be in that state, right? And until that becomes an unconscious default, we do need to repeat consciously the new choice until that new choice becomes your habit.
Yeah. I
But
would
that
even
doesn't,
say that there's a stepping stone to that where you have to wake up in every unconscious response
right?
until you can almost see it coming. Like you're so, I don't know what language to use, awake or conscious, that as you're moving through life, you sort of can feel the lack coming
Yeah,
and anticipate it and still respond differently. Because I think in the beginning it is, you know, the analogy that I use when I talk to people about this stuff is that this watch used to be on this arm, right? I got lots of tattoos on this arm. When I got this watch, I was on forums and messaging Samsung and asking them like why it won't give me my sleep data, the thing's not working and whatever. And on some random Reddit forum, I read somewhere that the sensors don't work through tattoos. So I put it on this arm. Months I was fighting with them. I couldn't find the answer. Went to sleep that night, woke up, looked at my phone, all the sleep data was there. I've been wearing my watch on this arm my entire life. Right. So I thought it was going to be a simple task of, okay, I'm just going to start wearing the watch on this arm. And I charge the watch when I get in the shower. So the first 2 or 3 times, I'm still very awake to it. And I charge the watch and I put it on this arm. Till like 3 or 4 days later, I get out of the shower, I put the watch on this arm. The whole day I don't notice. I go to sleep. I look at my phone. There's no sleep data. Then I realized how difficult this was going to be because I was completely asleep to the whole thing. And then so I spent some weeks, months getting in the shower going, don't forget, trying to stay with it. Don't forget. Sometimes I would get distracted and still get out the shower, still put it on. But eventually I got to a point where I was putting it on this, but I was so awake to it. It wasn't the new normal, right? I was still very consciously choosing to make sure that I put it on this arm. Till eventually I remember saying to some of my clients like that it's now when I get out of the shower without even thinking about it, it goes onto this arm. And that's like that's this process, right? And maybe that's just me. Maybe hopefully.
At the beginning, people needs to be self-aware of the unconscious pattern, so we can bring that pattern into the conscious awareness. It's interesting when you were talking about your watch. It reminded me of when Bob was alive and he was doing a paradigm shift event in Los Angeles. I was attending the live event, and one of the things that he made us do is to write down the things that you're grateful for or whatever that topic is, but you need to write down using the non-dominated hand. Because it's uncomfortable. And he was talking about that is what we are working on. Means that the new pattern feels like writing down with the non-dominated hand. The new identity stepping into feels like that. So you basically train your brain to become accustomed to writing things in a non-dominated hand and begin getting used to it. So every single time when I was in an event, he made us write with the dominated and hand. So that's one of the practice. We haven't done this practice because I didn't like that one. So, but it's a good exercise for sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as the doing?
No, not the doing trap, but I have a question from earlier that I've been wanting to ask you for a while, but I keep forgetting. But according to we were basically talking about reframing earlier, and so like for instance, the ultimate reframe is that life is happening for me, not to me. But there's multiple reframes that happen in this process of rewiring yourself, where you have a contrast experience, you have a particular response that you normally do, and then so you reframe it, right? You reframe the contrast, you reframe the. What do you think about reframing is just postponing suffering? And I'll tell you my thoughts on it is because I think that like if it becomes a game, if the reframing just becomes like a band-aid, a way to feel better in the moment, right? So there's contrast and I don't want to feel unpleasant, so I reframe it, but I'm not actually understanding that it's much deeper what needs to happen. Or let me explain it like this, right? I come from 12-step fellowships, recovery fellowships. We have in the step 9 is like where you go and you make amends, right? And I'm not going to get too much into that, but you find people that when I understand that, it's like, okay, so I'm learning that how to take responsibility, right? And so that I don't have to say sorry anymore. I have to go and say sorry to a whole bunch of people, but I'm also learning that moving forward, I'd rather not put myself in situations where I have to say sorry, right? But you find people that go, oh, I can just say sorry. I can just say sorry. I don't, there's no deepening of it. It's just like, oh, okay. So if I do the wrong thing, I can just say sorry. Like that's as far as it goes. So it's like, okay, I'll just reframe it. It's like, oh, this, I don't enjoy this, but it's happening for me. Right. And then you get people that move their entire life going, this is happening for me. It's happening for me. But the outside never changes because something internally is, so what I think I read it in a book by a Buddhist nun or something, and she was on one of the meditations I've done recently, and they were saying, they didn't say reframing, but what they were talking about was prolonging suffering, or no, I can't remember the exact language, but it was like, yeah, something in this area of reframing is just prolonging suffering.
I think it's interesting the way that you are looking at the reframing, because I mean, in the coaching industry, we do talk about reframing, but let's kind of quickly touch upon what that actually means, right? Reframing means that framing means to choose to see from a certain perspective, right? So you create a frame, and that frame contains a lens and that perspective. So means that you alter and change the way you see things from different angles. So when things happen in life, I think there are infinite numbers of interpretation to that fact. And life is happening to me is a frame, right? The perspective. If somebody think that life is happening to me, I feel that consciously or unconsciously, I see that as the person not aware of the spiritual dimension. And then life is happening for me. I like to say that the life is happening through me and as me. So my expression of who I am is going to produce the reflection of whatever that is that I am in the outside, because of who I am being inside. So then reframing means that you're seeing things from different dimension and different angle and different perspective, based on the understanding and embodiment of who you believe yourself to be in this world. I don't know if you were expecting me to take this to a this deep level, but then I think you're saying reframing is postponing suffering from a particular angle and the frame of what reframing means, right? But I think if you begin interpreting the consequence through the lens of life is happening through me and as me, that is the only way to remove suffering, because then you're putting the power to you, not to outside of you.
Yeah, it's the depth of it that's important, right? It can't be a like a surface level. It can't be an idea.
Right. So I think you're saying that reframe to be able to feel good when something wasn't feeling good, right? But I think, like for instance, none of the contrast bothers me anymore, right? Contrast happens, right? And like, speaking of self-aware and then consciously choosing your thought, you notice the contrast, and I know exactly what it means every single time, right? because something happens, and out of people give me some information, and nothing surprises me anymore. Yeah, because I think I have learned to live in the timeline of the ultimate reality means that I have a deep knowing that things are unfolding exactly the way it's unfolding, and I have a ability to choose to influence that process. And let's say if I choose one versus the other and something happens, that was the path that I was supposed to be taken. Then that things that happen in the outside, I choose to perceive this way so I can direct this way. Now it's happening in a way that I'm supposed to be happening. So it's just a fun ride and the collaboration with uh universe. So then there's no room for suffering, right?
Mm. Collaboration with the universe. I love that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's my new favorite, collaboration with the universe. Yeah.
Exactly. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, yeah. You just gave me some.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I sort of get it, and you just give me the language, which is
Oh yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
Like I sort of understand it, but I need some clarity.
Yeah. Um, we're doing the event next week, Frequency of the Soul. So we conduct a monthly event. It's usually 3 days. That's something that we have been doing. In the Soul Purpose School group, we have challenges that we're running this week. The challenge is designed to give everybody a deeper awareness of the soul, deeper awareness of the mind, relationship with the mind and the soul, relationship with the spiritual embodiment and then business expansion, all of the above, including subconscious stuff that a lot of people are interested in. Um, Frequency of the soul is the topic of this month, and frequency is a station that you tune into, and it is about how to tap into that so we can let the soul express through in our experience. So if you're soul-led entrepreneurs and then feels like you want a key to integrate your spiritual awakening and business growth, there's going to be a link to join for the Soul Purpose School group below. So if you can click that, we will be inviting you. We have about, I think, almost 1,400. Um, I think we can get to 2,000 by the end of the year. And when that happens, 2,000, the group is free currently, but our plan is to turn that into a $22 monthly group because there's a lot of things going on that we want people to prioritize and pay attention to by paying something, because you pay attention to the amount that you pay. So if any of the things that we talked about resonate with you, check out the group below and we will see you inside. Uh, do you have any final comments, Jan? No?
No, just thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.
I love
See you in the
these
group,
calls.
everybody. Thank you, Jan. Perfect.